Eli Baxter. Today we're going to be covering all the sports from NFL to NBA to NHL, and we've got a couple additional things happening.
That's right. We're going to be still covering everything that we've covered the past few weeks, but we're also going to be adding two new segments to the show. One of them, Worldwide Wacky Sports. We're going to be covering different sports from around the world that are lesser known, not many people follow. And then we also have Ohio Sports Roundup with Ian Miller, which is just going to be covering all the sports across the Buckeye State, whether it's college sports, whether it's NHL, NFL, whatever it is. We're going to be covering it, so we'll get to that later in the show.
Yep. Well, let's first get to NFL Week 4 review. We're going to start with the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers in Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah, great game there. Close one, and former Buckeye Justin Fields obviously had a good game, even though they eventually would fall short. But great game by him. He'd passed for 312 yards, one touchdown, ran for two. So great game overall by him.
Led the Steelers in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. So great game by him. So unfortunately, they fell short, 27-24. And then the Chiefs, they traveled to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. They came out on top, 17-10. Patrick Mahomes looking good still. Travis Kelce having a best game of the season, I'd say. Patrick Mahomes threw for 245 yards, one touchdown. He did have one interception though, but still they got the win, which that's all that matters.
Yeah, they get the win, remain undefeated, and they just look too good right now. Patrick Mahomes still looking like the MVP player he is.
Yep. And then we're going to head down to Tampa Bay, where the Buccaneers handled the Philadelphia Eagles with a score of 33-16. Former Browns QB Baker Mayfield had an outstanding game there again. He threw for 347 yards, two touchdowns, and had no interceptions, so great game by him.
Yeah, and on the other side of the field, QB Justin Fields not looking amazing right now. The team's struggling, obviously, and he's not exactly looking too much better. Obviously, it's not always just on the QB, but he would end up throwing for just 158 yards. Only time will tell. Hopefully he can turn it around and be the NFL Super Bowl QB that he was a few years ago. So we'll see how it goes for him.
Alongside Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, as he's been playing really well lately, but last weekend kind of had an off day. Carried the ball for 10 times and ran it for 84. Did not get in the end zone, but going to be a bounce back game hopefully soon. So, and then we're going to head down to Atlanta against the Saints and the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons won it a close one, 26-24. Kicker Young Hoku scored a 58-yard field goal to win the game.
Yeah, I love those type of games where you can really just rely on ends up being on one player to steal a game for you. So especially when it comes down to a kicker being able to decide the fate of a game, always makes it fun.
Yep. QB for the Saints, Derek Carr, he had a great game though, 229 yards. He did not throw it for a touchdown, but still good amount. Kept it close. So.
Yep. Good game for him. And then we turn to the Bills, who would take on the Ravens, and they would fall 10-35, a decisive one again. Finally got a win for the Ravens there. Again, another two-game winning streak here. Lamar Jackson looking good, the QB there for the Ravens. Josh Allen coming off of doing really well. Another game, pretty good game for him, throwing 180 yards. Obviously, they couldn't pull it out in the end, but both QBs there looking really good.
Yeah. Derrick Henry. He carried the Ravens, it seemed like. 24 carries, 199 yards, and one touchdown. So a great game by him again.
Yeah.
Ravens, after starting 0-2, they're looking like they're getting into the flow of things. Bills, starting 3-0, only one loss, so looking to bounce back after that loss. And then in Detroit, the Detroit Lions held the Seattle Seahawks to only 29. Lions put up 42, so a very high-scoring game.
Yeah.
It was an exciting one. Seahawks were undefeated beforehand. Lions are 3-1 now as well. So great game there.
And an amazing game by QB Geno Smith for the Seahawks. He'd throw for 395 yards. He'd have one touchdown. He'd throw for an interception, but it doesn't diminish the great game he had there.
Yeah. On the other side, the Lions QB Jared Goff threw for 292 yards and two touchdowns. So great game by both QBs.
Yeah.
So yep.
And then we look to the rest of the week's scores. The Vikings beat the Packers, and they stay as just one of two teams to be undefeated so far. They beat the Packers 31-29. The Bengals will get their first win of the season finally. 1-3 now. Hopefully they can turn this around. They'd end up winning 34-24 against the Panthers. And the Titans would also get their first win. They beat the Dolphins 31-12.
Yep. And then our two only remaining undefeated teams are the Kansas City Chiefs, as they beat the Chargers 17-10, and the Vikings, who just beat the Packers. And then we're going to transition into week 5. We've got our top 4 games of the week. Since teams are on bye, we're not going to have 2 less games of the season, or of the week. We've got the Buccaneers against the Falcons on Thursday Night Football. The Bills and the Texans, both 3-1. That'll be a great game. Then the Cowboys and the Steelers. Cowboys being 2-2. They just beat the Giants last week, and then the Steelers coming off their first loss of the season. And then we've also got the Saints and the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. Saints are 2-2, Chiefs 4-0. So.
Yeah, and then some teams getting a rest week this week, getting a bye week. Some of those teams, the Lions, the Titans, the Eagles, and the Chargers, all are going to take time off, hopefully recoup and be able to keep on successful the rest of the year.
Yep. And as we transition into college football, week 5 review, we've got a couple big ones. We've got the Oklahoma State Cowboys fall into the Kansas State Wildcats 42-20. Oklahoma State is now 0-2 in Big 12 play, so not a great start for them.
Yeah, and then Louisville taking on Notre Dame. 15-16 would end up being the score. Pretty low-scoring game, and for Notre Dame, who was touted, people thought they might be pretty good this year. Just a close game. They would obviously end up on top, so get W in the win column. But pretty close game against a solid Louisville team. But hopefully they can. Hopefully they'll get a little bit more decisive wins in the future.
Yep. Unfortunately, Louisville had not turned the ball over one time this season, but they did turn the ball over 3 times against Notre Dame. So not a great game for them, but looking to be bounce back after that. And then we head down to Tuscaloosa, a big game between the number 2 and number 4 teams in the country. Georgia did come up short against Alabama in a thriller. It was 41-34 in Alabama's favor. So
yeah, that was a great game. That was one everybody had written down on their schedule, the one that all the fans wanted to see. Obviously, 2 powerhouses, 2 programs that have had dynasties the past couple of years. So just a fun game. Obviously, also important for the AP polls there to see who would come out on top. Alabama now obviously sitting at number 1 with freshman Ryan Williams, looking just absolutely amazing. A 17-year-old, and he's playing like a veteran right now.
Yep. Alabama was up 30-9 at the half, so it was a great comeback from the Bulldogs. They didn't give up, so it was a thriller. And then in Penn State versus Illinois, Penn State did win 21-7, so a lower scoring game, but still Penn State coming out on top in Beaver Stadium. Penn State had 3 rushing touchdowns, so that was the only way they got the ball in the end zone.
And then we turned to some other games. Arizona would take on Utah, and they would win 23-10.
Yep.
Kentucky would take on Ole Miss, and they would win 17-6. So Ole Miss obviously not able to generate too much there. Kentucky looking pretty good right now, 3-2. Ole Miss still successful in the season so far, 4-1. That being their only loss of the season so far.
Yep. That was a big upset there. Nobody was really expecting that. I don't think anybody really had it on their radar, but that was Kentucky's first win in Oxford, Mississippi since 1978. So it was a big win.
Yeah, important one for them.
Yep. And then we're gonna transition into our updated rankings of NCAA football. Alabama, after their win against Georgia, they're moving up to 1 after being number 4. And then Ole Miss, after their loss, they fall to number 12. And then BYU, after a big win over Baylor, they moved up to 17 after being 22 last week. And then Louisville, after their loss, they dropped to 22. And then Indiana and UNLV are both tied for 25th, but they are both entering the rankings, so good, exciting for them.
Yeah, lots of matchups, made it pretty tight in the AP polls after a pretty good week of football. Pretty fun for all the fans. Obviously, that Alabama-Georgia game, pretty important for Alabama to move up to number 1 there.
Yep. And then we're going to head into our Week 6 preview. We've got our top 5 games of the week, starting off with Missouri heading to College Station to take on the Aggies. Aggies are ranked 25th, and the Missouri Tigers are ranked 9th. And then we've got Ole Miss in South Carolina. Ole Miss trying to make a bounce back there.
Yeah, and then after that we have Indiana taking on Northwestern. Indiana obviously very hot right now. Ranked 23rd, but they are 5-0, so coming off a lot of success right now. Then we have Michigan taking on Washington. Michigan, obviously after losing head coach, a lot of fans thought they might be not as good this year, not as strong from the leadership position, but they are still ranked 10th, and they're 4-1 currently. They'll play Washington, who's 3-2.
Yeah, national championship game rematch from last season, so it'll be exciting. Washington is 3-2, losing to Washington State and Rutgers, so they're not looking as good as they were last year, but maybe things can turn around here after this game. And then the college game day game of the day is Miami. They're heading down to California to play the California Golden Bears. California is 3-1, and Miami is 5-0.
And then, Miami too hot right now. They're 5-0.
Yep.
Obviously, they're number 8 right now. They look very good.
Yep. And then we're gonna transition into our picks of the week. So we're gonna start out with Missouri and Texas A&M. Who do you have for that one?
I'm gonna have to go with Missouri. Obviously being undefeated. Undefeated is undefeated. 4-0. I think they'll be good.
Yeah, I agree with that one. It'll be hard. Texas A&M. They've got a loud fans, so it'll be an exciting game.
Yeah.
And then Ole Miss, South Carolina. I think I got the Rebels making a bounce back against the Gamecocks.
I agree with that one. Ole Miss might be coming off a loss, but doesn't mean anything. I think they'll take that and chip on their shoulder and carry this momentum into the game.
Yep. And then the Hoosiers. I've got them. They're on a hot streak right now, and I don't think the Wildcats really have enough power to stop the Hoosiers. But you never know. They're in Evanston, all the weather, so right next to the lake, so it could go either way.
Yeah.
And then Michigan and Washington, the national championship rematch. Who do you have for that one?
Another close one. It should be fun. Obviously, it's a little bit of bad blood there from last year, but I mean, Michigan, even without Jim Harbaugh, they just look good right now without having a championship-winning coach. I think they still look too good. So I'm gonna have to go with Michigan.
Same thing with me. I'm gonna have to go with them. The Huskies aren't looking as good as they were last year, so I still got the Wolverines in that one. And then the Hurricanes traveling to California. Who do you got for that one?
That's gonna be a tough one, but I mean, Miami obviously 5-0. I mean, not much you can do there. I don't think many teams are gonna be able to do well against them. I got Miami.
Yeah, I got Miami as well. California losing to the 1-4 Florida State Seminoles, who started the season in the top 10. They obviously have fallen short, but I still got Miami with that one.
And then we transition to our newest segment, Worldwide Wacky Sports. So we'll take that to John with cheese rolling.
Cheese rolling is a quirky tradition that dates back to the early 1800s in Gloucestershire, England. It involves a group of brave souls chasing a wheel of double Gloucester cheese down a steep hill. The goal? Be the first to cross the finish line after the cheese. The cheese rolls rapidly, often taking a few tumbles along the way, and participants usually end up falling all over each other. It's all in good fun to keep things safe, though a few bruises are common. It's a mix of a sport, spectacle, and a little bit of chaos, making it a beloved event for locals and visitors.
Well, that was exciting there. I don't think I would really want to throw myself down a hill chasing a wheel of cheese. But
I don't think I would have known about that too much either. It's pretty interesting to learn about.
Looks pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
But all right, we're gonna head into MLB postseason update. We've had our two first games of the wild card. The Tigers have beaten the Astros 0-2. They beat them in Houston. The Tigers are gonna travel to Cleveland and take on their divisional rivals, the Guardians.
And then after that, we have the Royals who are going to be taking on the Orioles. Royals currently 2-0 against the Orioles. Royals looking really good right now. They played Baltimore twice, and the winner will end up playing the Yankees. Yankees obviously really looking good right now. We got a good player in Aaron Judge there, so it should be a good matchup.
Yep. And then the Mets and the Braves are going to head to a game 3. Braves won last night, so it'll be a game 3 tonight. Starts at 8:30, and it will take place in Milwaukee. And then the number 5 Braves, they fell short to the Padres 2-0. Padres won 5-4 yesterday and 4-0 in the game 1. So they'll go on and face the Dodgers. And then we're gonna head to JD with the NHL news.
Yeah, NHL preseason is currently underway. Blue Jackets are looking really good right now. Obviously, it's just the preseason, so they don't have all their starters in. They don't have all their key pieces, but they're still looking really good. Currently 4-2. They're coming off a win against the Washington Capitals, and they'll play the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight at home. Nationwide Arena, obviously a tough place for Penguins fans to come to play at, as two rivals there between the Jackets and the Penguins. And then they'll be going to Pittsburgh tomorrow to play Penguins at UPMC in Pittsburgh. Lots of Blue Jackets players looking really good right now. Adam Fantilli is currently tied for first in the NHL with goals for the preseason, with 4 goals, as well as Matthew Olivier, also from the Blue Jackets, who has 4 goals in the preseason. Like I said, obviously the preseason, so not as much competition league-wide for goals, but still definitely an accomplishment. And Fantilli also ranked currently 4th in the NHL for points, with 6th in the preseason. And former Blue Jackets winger Patrick Laine, who was traded earlier in the summer to the Montreal Canadiens, is out with a knee injury, an apparent knee injury. No confirmation there on what the injury is. Many fans speculate that it's an ACL injury after a knee-on-knee hit that he had in a preseason game against the Maple Leafs. And that player, many fans would think would end up being suspended, or should be suspended or fined, but the NHL would end up ruling that it was a clean hit, and so nothing would happen on that play. And turning to outside of Columbus news in the NHL, current Boston Bruins goalie Jeremy Swayman has not been re-signed yet. He is currently he was on his last year of his deal last year, and so the Bruins went ahead and signed a Czech goalie to be ahead of him on the roster as he waits for a contract negotiation. Obviously, he's Swayman, a key piece for the Bruins there, so they would love to be able to re-sign him, but him and his agent kind of come to terms with the Bruins there. And similar to Swayman's situation currently in Boston, New York GM Chris Drury has been unable to sign their star goalie Igor Shesterkin, who was just a Vezina winner just 2 years ago with New York, putting up a .935 save percentage, and he's been requesting a $12 million by 8-year contract. But the Rangers, obviously, with the amount of star power they have on that team, they haven't been willing to pay him or re-sign him yet. So both those goalies not currently rostered on any team, and it'd be important for their teams to re-sign them if they can, but it's not looking good right now for either of the teams.
Yeah, that's right. After NHL, we're going to head into the WNBA playoffs. We're in the semifinals. We've got the top 4 teams, the New York Liberty. They're up 2-0 on the Las Vegas Aces. The Aces have been champions the past few years, so looking to bounce back here. It's a best of 5, so winning tonight for the Liberty would be huge. The Liberty beat the Atlanta Dream last round, and then the Las Vegas Aces beat the Seattle Storm last round. And then the Minnesota Lynx and the Connecticut Sun, they are tied 1-1. So tomorrow night, 7:30 in Connecticut, it'll be a huge game there. Who can get one more game closer to the 3-game mark? Minnesota beat the Phoenix Mercury last round, and the Connecticut Sun beat the Indiana Fever with Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston.
Yeah, tight series there, so really gonna be fun to see who ends up on top.
Yep.
And then we go into NBA news. Karl Anthony Towns has been traded to the Knicks for Julius Randle, as well as Dante DiVincenzo, as well as Taquan Jeffries, and draft compensation will head to Charlotte.
Yep. Karl Anthony Towns playing a big role in that playoff run last year. So, and then in other NBA news, sad passing of Dikembe Mutombo, a legend. He passed away of brain cancer, but he was an 8-time All-Star, won lots of awards. So gonna be sad for him. And then we're gonna transition to Ian with our Ohio Sports Roundup to end the day.
The Cincinnati Bengals will host the surging Baltimore Ravens on Sunday. CBS will begin their broadcast at 1 p.m. Meanwhile, the Cleveland Browns will travel to D.C. to face Jaden Daniels and the Commanders on Fox at 1 p.m. Also, the Guardians will begin their postseason on Saturday as they host the Detroit Tigers for Game 1 of the ALDS. The Guardians will need to win 3 of the 5 games against the Tigers to advance to the next round. In college football, the Buckeyes are back at the Shoe as they take on the Iowa Hawkeyes at 3:30 p.m. on CBS. The Hawkeyes are 3-1 with their only loss coming to Iowa State 20-19. Lastly, the Blue Jackets will host the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight at 7 p.m. and will make the trip to Pittsburgh tomorrow for their final preseason game.
Well, thank you, Ian. We're going to close it there for the day. We're going to see you guys next week on Thursday. I'm Eli.
And I'm JD with DBSN Overtime. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week with another episode.